watching AM Ghana show right here on Advert TV. We are streaming live on Facebook, Advert TV Ghana, and YouTube, Advert TV GH. Well, a big good morning to all our viewers. It's now time for the political discussion, and seeing you for the very first time, I believe you're doing well. Well, I got caught up with this quotation for this morning. I think the quotes, the motivational quotes that came this morning. It says, Friday is a day to finish your goals for the week. It's a day to celebrate that which you set out to accomplish at the beginning of the week. Do you remember what we said on Monday? Forget all the things you've encountered this week and have a great weekend ahead. And so Monday seems to be a very serious day, and Friday presents itself naturally to be a very dull day. Everything is coming to an end. Everybody is wrapping up on their tables and everything. And so this is a way to tell you or to remind you that you should have a great weekend. Forget all the things that have happened, whether good or bad. Just put it aside and move on. And for human beings, you only make progress when you forge ahead, when you still have your eyes on the goal ahead of you. That is where you're able to make some good progress. But if you keep referring to the past, well, you don't get anywhere. It takes away your time, and time is money. My name is Anastasia Badu, and this morning we'll be speaking on corruption. It's something we've already been discussing from some weeks now. And last week, I was privileged to have two giants in the studio to speak to me. And surprisingly, this morning, we have three. And so we'll be speaking on issues relating to corruption. We're looking at how public sector corruption can be combated in Ghana. Where is this coming from? We are going to tackle it from the roots, and then we bring it up and see how time will even permit us to go. And if we are not able to finish, well, it's another day for us to meet again and speak about them. And these three gentlemen I'm speaking of, well, I have Justice Isaac Dose, retired appeals court judge, with me in the studio on my immediate right. And next to him, cladded in suit, we have Dr. Joseph Gerald Nyanyufio. He is a lecturer at the University of Professional Studies. And also, we have Dr. Bernard Tutubuain. He's also a political scientist. Gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I believe you're all doing well.
As much as possible.
That's how you're doing.
Good.
You're doing good?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
All right.
I'll take the opportunity to say hi to all our listeners and invite them to listen very carefully.
Sure.
It's a very big problem.
Yeah.
And we need to solve it together.
We will solve it together. We hope that we are able to solve it one day, because this happens to be a canker that everybody is worried about. Even, excuse me to say, the illiterates are even serious about it. They also find themselves wanting anytime this is mentioned. Dr. Nyanyufio, how are you doing?
I'm cool.
How has it been for you?
Well, the week has been very calm, and I would also want to take the opportunity to say a very good morning to our viewers and extend my warm regards to my co-panelists.
Let me throw this to you. Do you also agree in what they say about Mondays? Mondays in itself presents as a very serious day, that you wake up and everything is serious.
Exactly. In fact, right from Sunday, you are upbeat about what you are likely to encounter the next day. And so Mondays are really very busy days. It's almost difficult to even call a senior person the next day, knowing that by the early embers of the day, they'll be very busy. Getting ready for their meetings and regular routines. So Mondays are really serious days.
Mondays are really serious days. Dr. Titubuahin, you're welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
And it's good to have you early today.
You.
Well, so these are my gentlemen this morning for the discussion. We are going to see, like I mentioned earlier, we are speaking about corruption in the public sector, how it can be combated in Ghana. It looks like every leader that comes in with a particular government try their best to make sure that they are able to tackle corruption. Can it be eradicated at all? Can it be? And looking at the way we are going to have a conversation, I'm sure we're going to pick it from the beginning. I'm going to start with Justice Dose, who, from all indications, you can see that at least he has lived through some period. He has lived through certain governments, and we've gotten here. So at least he can also give us or teach us to know what we've never heard before. In the previous governments during Nkrumah time, Rawlings and all that, we see how corruption came about in those times, and then we can move on. So, Justice Josie, this is over to you. What was government like when it comes to corruption in the Nkrumah's time, and then we moved to Rawlings's time? What was it like?
Corruption is essentially a perception. Perception is not often the true situation, but what some people suspect to be the truth about corruption. Now, corruption is seen to be pervasive, but often when people who have been accused of huge sums in corruption come out of public office, within a very short time, they become paupers. So you begin to ask yourself, did they really steal that huge sums of money? And how come within a few years, everything has gone into tatters? So it is a very difficult situation. Let me start from the very beginning. I was very young when Kwame Nkrumah was in power. One of the landmark corruption cases in his time was in relation to Mr. Kroboduse of blessed memory. He was alleged to have built a house with a garage upstairs, which means I park the car and the lift takes the car up. And then he had bought a golden bed, a gold-plated bed, costing 14,000 pounds in 1960 or somewhere thereabouts. Kwame Nkrumah disciplined him. He removed him as Minister for the Interior for a while. But the unfortunate thing is that they didn't take the property from him.
Okay.
And so the dismissal didn't seem to have any serious effect. When Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown, the NLC took over, National Liberation Council. The chairman of the NLC in 1969, wishing to become president when they were changing to civilian government, also took a bribe of $200,000 from one Nigerian called Nzeribe to build up his presidential ambitions war chest. His colleagues in the NLC forced him out of office, but they didn't take the $200,000 from him. So, and it wasn't clear whether he could have got $200,000 as compensation or retirement benefit. So, essentially, the problem was not solved. The similar thing happened when one principal secretary then, Aflado was his name, was accused of bribery and corruption. A principal secretary is equivalent to a chief director now. And they dismissed him. They didn't try him. They didn't take the money away from him either.
Is it that the money was not available? They had used the money, and so
no
couldn't be paid?
No attempt was made to take the money from him. Unlike the case of Woyome, when attempts are being made to take the money from him. No attempt was made to take the money away from him. So it went on. At Champon time, people accused him of bribery and corruption and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, it looks like Achampon is the only head of state of this country who has no significant landed property that anybody can point to. But the noise made about Achampon's corruption was huge. Was it true? Where did he take the money to? Did he take it to Switzerland? Or where did he take the money to? And the money is not showing on any of his children if they can be identified. So that's why I was saying that, is it real or is it a perception? Is it a trick to incite the public against the leadership when these kinds of allegations are made? Rawlings came, truly, he did a lot of things. But his style of solution doesn't solve the problem. You see, it's an attitude. And killing one or two people may not solve the problem. Very soon, people forget. I don't know how many people remember how many people Rawlings killed by name or whatever it is. And whether the number that people are throwing about is the truth is also not known, because in the circumstances, it's not possible to line up to create a register of those who were killed for corruption. You understand? So it went on. Then fast forward to, let me say, Mahama's time. Of course, an effort was made. When Abu Gapele did a confirmed thing, he was tried. One of the most significant attempts at curbing corruption for a president to take out a minister who's also a member of parliament and try him and get him jailed. You know, but then again, at the end of the day, no serious effort was made to retrieve the money.
They didn't stop it from continuing.
So the attempts and the efforts to solve the problem have not been adequate, because if somebody steals and you let him keep what he has stolen, then what is it? What happens? So efforts have not been deep enough to root out corruption in the system. In the current government, there are a lot of corruption allegations being made. Nobody has the proof of any of them, but it is being put out there almost on daily basis. But is it true that there's this huge amount of corruption is going on? That is another issue. Then the rating authorities, those who do the corruption perception index and all those kind of things, have not come out clearly, in my mind, fairly and clearly, as to what they are doing. Because currently, there are enclaves in the Western world where people steal and where people go and keep stolen money. Cayman Islands and whatever, Switzerland and Dubai. The corruption perception index doesn't mention them at all in the rate. For me, they should have been at the bottom of the rank, because they are collecting the benefits of the corruption. But nobody, if you look, you might find them at the top of the cleanest nations in the world. Meanwhile, they are the people who are collecting the money. And even when they are directly confronted, they refuse to hand over the money. Look at Abacha's money. Huge sums of money. They are refusing to return the money back to Nigeria, because Nigeria has to prove that the money was actually stolen. And that because the person was not tried and convicted for stealing money, they are entitled to keep that money. Look at Mobutu. He was richer than his own country. Yet, the Swiss are still keeping his money and the house that he built in Switzerland. So what, is it a real thing or not real? Why is Switzerland free? Why is Dubai free? Dubai is not second to.
It's a booming place.
Yes, a booming place. Everybody steals money. This is Dubai. Cayman Islands and all those kind of things. So I think that, quite apart from corruption being a perception, the efforts to be made to solve it must. And when you want to solve an attitudinal matter, you don't start on the surface. You must go to the roots. You must build the minds of the youth against corruption and teach them how to relate when they are in public service. Without that, I don't think there will be any way of solving the problem. I remember when we were in elementary school, there was a subject taught known as civics.
Okay.
How to behave in a public environment, how to be a good citizen. And coupled with that, they were also teaching the young pioneers, who were a special political class of students of the school. But for the generality of the students, they were taught civics, how to be a passive citizen, who are passive citizens, who are active citizens, and who are bad citizens, and all those kind of things. You know?
I'm sure we had crumbs of civics in our mode of learning, because at the time they also taught us bits of it. Maybe might not be in its entirety, but
yes, but it was a very the textbooks were published and they
For
were
that.
graded for that.
Okay.
You know, I think if that had continued, we may not have been where we are today.
Okay.
But you see, corruption thrives under secrecy.
Okay.
It thrives in the darkness. So for me, if it will become a policy to publish the salary levels of every public servant, so that everybody knows how much he really earns, so that the public itself can measure
How much resources you are able to garner?
Yes, during having 10, because often people tell you that 6 months after being appointed minister, everybody begins to acquire fat chicks.
But you are supposed to show your resources, especially when you are being put into office.
Very good. I was going to come to that one too. When you declare your assets, it must be published. It mustn't be a secret. It must be published. In fact, the government must take steps to publish, let's say, in one of the popular newspapers, 3 days running, all the assets declared by all ministers and their wives and their children and their sisters and their brothers. Or if possible, even their best friends, if you can identify them. You know, so that when these people begin to show sudden affluence, then we should be able to know.
All right. Thank you very much, Justice. I think that we've all gotten a clear indication of what we Justice wanted to drive at. But I was coming to your latter comment, which you mentioned about secrecy.
Yes.
And Dr. Tusubuahen, that's to you. We say it is not corruption until it is brought out, or until it is revealed by someone, until someone speaks about it. We say that it is not corruption then, because Justice just mentioned that it thrives on secrecy, and so if it happens in the dark, nobody sees it, nobody gets to know about it, it is not corruption. But it becomes corruption when everybody knows about it. Will we say that?
All right. So say good morning to our viewers. No, Justice, his profession, he's a lawyer and a judge for that matter, right? So he knows how to go about things. And
True.
And in fact, it's interesting listening to him, giving me another perspective on perception, issues relating to secrecy, declaration of assets, and other things. You see, I may want to agree with him when he talks about perception. In the same vein, I may also want to understand that is perception devoid of reality. Perception may be more or less like a mirage, all right, where you have some pictures in your mind, but you never come close to it. Is it the case that people may create unfounded allegation, in terms of corruption, and give the dog a bad name, with the idea of hanging it? Or there may be some element of truth somewhere, which we may want to find out. Justice was talking about Nkrumah's government and the fact that someone, forgotten the name, Kobodusei, was alleged to have, engaged in corruption. Is it a case that the truth never existed, or there was some elements for which basis Nkrumah decided to take action against him? when you look at past present governments in Ghana, at every point in time, you will hear that this person is corrupt, this government is corrupt, that minister is corrupt. There has been evidence where people, have been found culpable, they have been jailed. So in that case, is it just an issue of perception? Or probably after the investigation, some dots were connected and leading to an unacceptable, unethical behavior in the case of handling of finances, and therefore this judgment or that judgment will be pronounced on you. Whichever way it is, I believe that corruption, in as much as we can describe as perception, could also have some element of reality. Now, the bottom line or the missing link between the two would be having a structured, system that can control some of these things, whether it is perception or whether it is true. Now, you will see that some governments, have defended some of these perceptions, and probably